Hello everyone, thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. I really hope that you're having a wonderful day. In today's story, OP, who's a high school student who recently relocated from Spain to the US, reaches out to Reddit because she had a really awkward situation with her nurse. The nurse is questioning the diagnosis that she initially got in Spain. It is an extremely rare diagnosis. Unfortunately, the nurse's attitude is very belittling. It does end on a positive note, so stay tuned for the update to find out. If you do enjoy the story, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up. And before I move on to the story, I just wanted to take a second and thank all of my subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys are so wonderful. For those that are new here, if you do like my content and would like to support me, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. Anyways, thank you so much for your time and on to the story. Am I the a-hole for telling a school nurse that I don't need a second opinion from an American doctor for a diagnosis made in Spain? I, a 17-year-old female, moved from Spain to the US with my parents a year ago. I have a very rare and severe neurological condition, which is itself a subset of a more common and less debilitating condition. When I say rare, I mean a 0.0001% occurrence rate. I was diagnosed in Spain a year ago before we moved. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital where they ran all possible tests, including experimental ones. Eventually, I saw a specialist who is extremely well known in his field. He made the diagnosis and prescribed medication for me. As a result, I went from having 2 episodes a day to having less than 1 a month. Now for the issue. A week ago, a new head nurse was hired at my high school. As an at-risk student, she asked to meet me. When I started describing my situation, she interrupted me saying, "I know about," and then she went on to name the more common condition. Please keep it brief. Despite the fact that my condition is significantly more severe and rare, I decided to provide a detailed explanation. However, she interrupted me once again and said, "This diagnosis is very unusual. Are you sure about it? I know a very good doctor. Wouldn't you like a second opinion from an American doctor?" She emphasized the nationality. I informed her that all of the tests were conducted a year ago, the diagnosis perfectly matches my symptoms, and the prescribed medication is effective. I also expressed that Spanish doctors are just as competent as American ones. Although I remained calm, it was evident that I felt that she was undermining Spain as a third world country. In response, she rolled her eyes and told me not to become defensive. When I returned home, I shared the incident with my parents. Unfortunately, my dad, who's American, took the nurse's side. I mentioned that if he wanted, he could spend tens of thousands of dollars, which is what the entire process would have cost in the US, to get the same diagnosis and have me put on opioids. He accused me of overreacting and advised me not to be rude. However, my mom, who's Spanish, understands my reaction considering how mentally exhausting this whole situation has been. I haven't received any further communication from the nurse, but I'm wondering if I overreacted. And then OP went on to add, "To address a general concern, I'm not on opioids. By at risk, I simply mean special needs. There is a possibility of episodes occurring while I'm at school, and my medical file contains a protocol instructing the school staff to not intervene during an episode, but rather wait for it to subside, quite literally." When asked why a nurse's opinion mattered and what impact it could have, OP said, "I'm not sure, but if the nurse questions the accuracy of my diagnosis, it could undermine the seriousness of my condition. This could lead to disregarding the instructions provided to the school in the event of an episode, such as not calling an ambulance because it wouldn't be necessary. It would create a chaotic situation." And then they also went on to add, "No regular care is required. Emergency care simply involves waiting for the episode to pass. When an episode occurs, I can remain in the classroom since there's no specific action to be taken. I am safe during the episode as long as I am in a secure position, and it is important for everyone to remain calm. In other words, It's not like a seizure or an epileptic episode. A Redditor asked, I assume that you have an American doctor for medication needs, right? OP replied, yes, I'm currently seeing a neurologist in Boston because I need to have my prescription renewed every 6 months. The specialist has reviewed all of the test results and scans and confirmed the diagnosis. Despite encountering only a few similar cases in the past, although he was also surprised, he handled it differently from the nurse. He mentioned that he couldn't think of any additional tests that could challenge the diagnosis at the moment. The most important thing that he emphasized was that the medication is effectively managing my condition. Hi all. First, thanks for all of the support. Based on your replies, I went to a school teacher I trust, and she advised me to report it. I had a meeting on Thursday with the principal, my parents, and the head nurse. I'm glad that I reported it because the nurse started off by expressing doubts about my diagnosis and reconsidering the process in case of an episode. While I don't have a formal second opinion or diagnosis, a neurologist here renews my prescription. The original documents were translated for the transfer of care process, so I bought them, even though they're already in my school medical file, to show the principal. I also read out loud a letter from the American neurologist. I thanked the nurse for her concern, but questioned the basis for it. She got angry and asked why I didn't inform her about the American diagnosis. I clarified that it wasn't a separate diagnosis, as the original diagnosis was made in Spain, and then she asked the principal if the insurance even approved a diagnosis from there, and expressed doubt that all the necessary tests were conducted, so I asked her which tests were missed, to which she replied, I don't know, I'm not a specialist. I couldn't come up with a good response on the spot, but my mom laughed and I think that was enough. The principal concluded the meeting and sent us an email on Friday stating that the process would remain the same. While my dad hasn't formally apologized, he did acknowledge that the nurse exceeded her qualifications. I'm glad that I reported the issue, as I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't. Thanks again for all of the support, and good luck to everyone else who's struggling with similar issues, and stay safe. OP then also went on to add in a comment, there is another nurse who has been here longer and is always nice to me, at least she's there for me, and now the principal is aware of the situation as well. As you mentioned, the nurse has embarrassed herself. All the teachers have witnessed me having an episode, and they know the correct procedures, so I believe that I'm in good hands now. So guys, what did you think about this? I do hope that you enjoyed this story. I don't know how I feel about this, honestly. On one side, I do understand it's an extremely rare condition, and if you're faced with something that, for example, a specialist has only seen a handful of times, I understand why the nurse might have a few doubts. But that being said, if the medication was seriously helping OP, I kind of understand where OP is also coming from because they know that it's working for them. I am glad that they were able to sort it out, and I'm glad that the protocol wasn't changed. I understand why OP was very frustrated though. Please let me know what you guys think. How would you have handled it? Do you think the nurse was in the right, or do you think that they were being slightly racist or xenophobic? I don't know, please let me know. I really hope that you enjoyed this story. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories from Reddit with updates.